few words about myself. I'm Aleksandr Kravchenko. I'm with Positive Technologies. I have worked in cybersecurity for 12 years. The main task for me today is to develop the methodology in cybersecurity. And I also am a columnist in a couple of professional magazines. We will talk today about building a community. We'll talk about the experience of those who have already implemented the community. We'll look at a couple of examples. And we'll talk about how to build a community looking at our example. So my presentation is not about technology, but rather about the fact that in Russia we have examples of communities that we can look at, and that it's not a scary thing, that you shouldn't be afraid of going after it, or maybe you should. Let's take a look. Communities are an important part of our lives, and often we build communities because we are social creatures. This has been discussed at length in many talks and books. A few quotes here. There's nothing more powerful than a community brought together by a common purpose, by John Locke. A community is not a place, but relations between people, Plato. So if you paraphrase, it's about people who communicate with each other, and hopefully they like it. We can come up with some elements to work with already. Our dictionary of the Russian language by Ozhegov says that a community is a group of people or peoples or states that have shared interests and goals. So that means that a community brings together entities of different size. Sociologists say that communities have these attributes: social relations, social norms, a shared culture, and regularity of communication. These are the attributes that you need to work on when you build a community. As often happens in info-security, we will subdivide a more difficult problem into more simple components, with which we can build a community. But what are these components? Well, it's quite simple. Peter Hitchens, in his book Social Architecture, comes up with just 20 instruments or components that you can use and be successful. And I imagine the face of someone who wants to implement all 20, and the image on the right is just to attract your attention. No coincidence meant. So it's about a strong mission, and it's a self-organization, free entry, free contributor, so that people could freely enter the community and make contributions. So, what question should we ask here? There's a multitude of elements, and they are important, but how do you make sure that you don't lose the forest behind trees? Where do you start? And I suggest that we come up with an architecture, and that you can use in pretty much the same way as in a project in cybersecurity.
The
main components that I'm proposing are shown here in the screen, but they are important both at the start of the community and they will remain important over time. Let's stop at each of them individually. First is the goal or the mission of a community. It could be discussion of InfoSec news, it could be training. The goal that you formulate must be understandable for your participants, but also, strange as it might sound, it should be understandable to you, because if you don't understand what you are doing, the participants would feel it. InfoSec, as any other industry, develops and evolves, and that is why your goal must reflect the objective reality. Whatever you wanted at the start is not the same that you might pursue going forward. And the process of goal formulation should not be as the path of samurai, who doesn't have a goal, just a path to follow. The next component is attracting new participants. What can we use here? Yes, of course, we can bring in your closest friends, but the aspiration is to have thousands of participants. Word of mouth is a good vehicle. The InfoSec world is quite close, and the community that you are targeting is even closer. Advertising puts to good use. There's very good results. So you're welcome to use it. Thematic conferences are good opportunity to advertise your community and also to network. The next point is partnership. When you work with another community, you could see improved trust in your community as well. But in targeting the number of subscribers, you might end up attracting bots to your community, which would make it unusable. The next next component is communication rules. Establishing communication rules and providing communication channel. We set the overall rules, being polite, being helpful, being tolerant, acknowledging that everyone has their own opinion. Providing communication channels, making communication easy, and moderating. That is similar to enforcement of order. And the risk here is that unclear communication rules reduce the effectiveness of your community when it's not clear what can you write and to whom. Next, communication platform. And in doing so, you want to take note of the target audience, of convenience, accessibility, scalability, and features. And often features become important, especially at a later point, and you have to think about it, because when you reach the limits of technology in the selected platform, you're going to have trouble. Transfer to another platform or upgrade of a platform may take up a lot of resources, and if you migrate to another platform, you may wipe out your subscriber base.
Спрогнозировать вот такие вот риски. Опять же, потому что неверный выбор, да, приведет к плачевной ситуации.
A wrong choice here could lead to bad outcomes. Next, creating useful content, and that includes information, materials, user content,
Вашего сообщества это вообще в принципе имеет смысл.
if that works for your community.
Без понимания вашей целевой
The risk here is without understanding the goal and your target audience, you can only post
мемы с котиками.
memes with cats.
Скрасят любое сообщество.
They will always work. They work in any community.
Но это как-то будет через некоторое время бессмысленно.
But that wouldn't make sense very quickly. Next component is motivating participants to share experience. Those could be working on some challenging tasks, those could be contests, that could be speaker presentations, webinars, Q&A sessions, gamification. The risk here is in a carrot and stick metaphor. The stick doesn't work and you have run out of carrots. So how do you motivate your community participants? Sometimes you don't know what to do next, and that could be a problem. The next component, taking into account the interests and the needs of participants.
Что вы можете использовать? Например, актуальный инфоповод.
Here's what you can do. You can use the topical theme. If your community is about SOC, you can, for example, discuss cyber incidents. And your participants would expect that a cyber incident, if you raise it, will be analyzed and resolved. If you don't set the agenda, the participants may come up with their own agenda, but the question then becomes, why would they need you?
Все ожидают, что так или иначе этому будет посвящено время. Дальше, собирая вопросы и предложения. Если вы сформировали
gathering questions and proposals. If you have such a communication, it could be useful for you.
Вы можете, ориентируясь на эту информацию, просто
you could use this information to curate your content. Next, sharing a roadmap of development of the community. Suppose you hold an event and you publish the development plan for your community for 12 months' time. It's good, people can understand where they can contribute.
Прекрасная в массе. Да, изучаем комментарии в соцсетях. Ну, это как мир.
Reading comments in social media.
Странных, может быть,
This recommendation is as old as the world itself.
Для того, чтобы, отлично.
You can get some ideas from the comments to generate something interesting.
Главное помните, что пытаясь угодить всем,
But remember that in trying to cater to everyone's interests, you might lose the overall purpose of your community.
У вас нет ресурсов для расширения команды. Далее. Управление лидерством.
Next.
Вот это очень
Management and leadership.
хороший компонент. От него может прям знатно пригореть, коллеги.
This one is a component that could
Классика, он отвечает за развитие,
lead to a failure if done wrong.
сообщество, за ответы на вопросы, за все это вот такое.
So there could be a model with one leader,
Далее, коллективный орган.
or there could be a collective body,
Рабочая группа, решение о
a working group,
развитии на основании согласования.
where decisions are made on an agreement basis.
Несколько лидеров. Как это может выглядеть? У вас большое сообщество, которое состоит из
Suppose you have a community that consists of a number of areas that are brought together by some logical
участник, когда
entity.
присоединяется к какому-то отдельному
A
направлению,
participant,
он становится
when they
частью
join,
целого. Да, но
they
решение
become a member of the whole, but
принимает
the decision in every instance is made by the leader.
Ну и, конечно, классическая анархия.
And of course, anarchy. We don't need
в каком виде, либо
leaders. We will do whatever we want.
Будет это сообщество жить? Оно сегодня может
So,
открыться,
question becomes, will that community live?
Главное, что
It's a big question mark.
без лидера очень
What you need to remember is that without a leader, it's difficult to understand the driving force for the community and to regulate, and regulation is needed everywhere. Okay, we have discussed the main components, and there's always something to be remembered. A couple of things here. First, the credibility of information, and often this is overlooked. Why?
У нас в сфере принято «доверяй, но проверяй».
Because in our business, we have the habit of double-checking information. And how is information contributed? And you can check information of the information that you contribute and the information that others contribute. How do you go about it? Do you set up a working group that would validate all the information? And the depth of validation is only up to you. It's your responsibility. The next element that is often overlooked, it's time. Creation of a community is a long story. It's not that you open it today and you close it tomorrow. Only time will tell what mistakes you made. Only time will tell whether your community is in demand altogether. And only time will give you opportunities to correct any mistakes that you made. And a final point is goal orientation. It's thinking about the end outcome. You have to have a broad idea of where it is that you are going. Is it the number of subscribers or participants? But I don't think that would work for you longer term. My recommendation is to target making some management decisions based on your community. If you have a community even within one company, still you're making a contribution to the development of that company. Or maybe you want to make a change in the InfoSec industry, and that correlates with your mission. That is not all. I could go on. There are many hidden points here, such as, for example, what do you do with those who disagree? How do you go about IP rights to the information contributed by the participants? How do you work on changes? Questions like this and many others, if you think about all of them at the same time, that's a clear path to burnout. A person is overwhelmed and wants to abandon things altogether. Okay, so that is the end of the theoretical part. We have discussed the key components. Let us now look at the practical experience. When preparing for this presentation, I did a survey among our colleagues who already have InfoSec communities that are running to this day. And I was curious, what was their idea to set up a community, what risks they had, how many people they have on their team, how they go about leadership, etc. Let us first look at statistics. This is the area of activity and the time of existence. The area of activity is quite straightforward. Most of my sample is is InfoSec communities, and only a part is InfoSec plus IT, which is quite funny, because in choosing my sample, I targeted half of pure InfoSec and half InfoSec plus IT. So maybe I made an error of judgment, or maybe the functioning of the communities is not as they were designed by the founders. It is obvious that I came across not so many examples
которые были созданы буквально в ретроспективе от 1 года и меньше.
Of communities created within 12 months or less, even though communities keep being created. But the main pool of communities are the ones created between 12 and 36 months, created during the COVID times or right after COVID, because after the pandemic we moved online, we saw that we are comfortable there, and I'm also happy that the sample also covers some old communities that have more than 5 years of existence. The next parameter is the team strength. And here I have a bit of a concern. Why? Because there are many examples when there's just one individual working on a community, and it's not just a Telegram channel dedicated to InfoSec. I have no examples when communities were created by one individual in a large company. Imagine that a person had a job to do, they also had a hobby, and suddenly they have this community. And I only saw a small cohort of communities where the number of people in the team is more than 5 people. It turns out that people didn't have any reservations at the start. They thought it would be easy to do. But as I will show later, people still thought about some risks that they might come across. Okay, so what inspired the people to create a community? That was the natural desire to share experience. That's characteristic of many of us. Another response is not having a Russian language community.
Да, нет русскоязычного комьюнити. Это подразумевает, что мы хотим
But what does that mean?
какое-то направление, например, application
That means that we want to develop some areas, say application security or DevSecOps, and we come across a situation that there is a lack of like-minded people, or a lack of resources, or a lack of a platform, and you can close those lacks by creating the community. Next, brand development. That was a surprise for me, but then why not? Because many large companies start creating their thematical events in cybersecurity. That correlates with the business needs, the development of a company brand, development of an InfoSec brand, development of a personal brand in a particular, of an employee in a particular company. That promotes the level of trust to a company that could be leveraged. And a thing that I mentioned previously, starting a community as a hobby. I had examples when an individual worked on something as a hobby and suddenly it became a professional community. Okay, moving on. Expectations. One expectation, an example, is to have more than 5,000 participants. That's a good goal, quite achievable, why not? Next, promoting the area of discussion. It could be an area in cybersecurity, or it could be InfoSec monitoring and response. The next response, more experts create more projects.
создают.
That's a classic thing.
Далее.
Experts
И то, о чем я
create
сказал.
experts.
Смотрите, коллеги, незаинтересованность
Next question. What risks? Responses. Lack of interest among first participants. Lack of response from the audience. These risks are very similar, and
с которыми я работал.
almost all respondents
Если в чем-то опасаетесь,
mentions them.
одни такие. Да,
So
то есть
if you have any concerns or fears, you're not alone.
это нормально. Но даже вот
Having fear that things won't work is okay.
объединяться, выстраивать свое.
In fact, you could leverage those fears to make them the fuel for your community. You could start discussing this with others.
Отлично. Принцип создания контента.
Next question, principle of content creation. And the responses were a topical event. Others said that anything from InfoSec.
Активно развивается.
We have quite an exciting industry, quite vibrant, a lot of things are happening.
Просто среди всего этого
And
слушаю сердце и разум.
the top among all the responses is that I listen to my heart and mind.
Как проверяется достоверность?
Imagine the degree to which the individual loves what they do. Next, how do you check credibility? Answer, references, OSINT, or creation of a working group. So a lot of effort is taken to verify the information. Next question, how is management implemented? Answers, there's one person in charge, there's a working group, there's a community curator and a few leaders of areas, and one curator plus a working group. Okay, that was my anonymized survey. Let us now look at examples of communities overseas and in our country.
Организованные сообщества.
Well-organized communities, OWASP, that's a foundation that has as their goal and mission to make sure that there was no unsecure software in the world. They have their platform, they have their structure, they gather their own conferences, they invite participants to contribute and do more to promote secure software. First, that is a non-for-profit organization existing from 1989 after an attack by a worm, when it was clear not to just one individual but to a group of people that the efforts of group responses to security incidents have to be coordinated. Otherwise, people would work in a disparate manner, and it wouldn't be effective, and it wouldn't bring good results.
The
IC2 consortium, another example, just at the dawn of the internet, they understood the importance of security, and InfoSec will grow, and that's where they started bringing together this database and experts to train them, to make them train the next wave of experts to make our world a safer place. Okay. Examples like that, so they have their mission, they have their goal, their centralized platform, they can invite participants, and that's how these key components were tested. That's how they built the best open source practices, which should be followed. But things changed, and many platforms are no longer available. That's why let's have a look at some Russian examples. Well, comparing them became an uphill job for me. Why so? Well, for instance, I work in one example, I learned about another one, say, yesterday. The third example is a well-trusted example I think we can be guided by. And the fourth one, well, is something you should know about. If you don't know about it, well, you're doing it to your peril. So what shall we do here to compare them? Well, historically, regulators are really important for us. We have the Federal Service of Technical and Expert Control, which is important for InfoSec, and this is a specific community. What do I mean by specific? Well, this is a public authority. They are also a leader, bringing together all InfoSec companies, and as a leader, they publish regulatory documents. So they execute their regulatory function. Okay, some might think that the role of STAC could be higher as the public authority, as a leader in the industry. Some others believe that this role could be lower so that the business does the job. But you shouldn't forget about it and you shouldn't neglect it. One more thing. The InfoSec communities in Russia used to be presented through individual IT experts who developed communities around themselves. Many of them thought that it was important to contribute to international projects when it used to make sense. But, you know, things are changing. There are more and more companies making some topical events and topical channels, and we see that it is developing, and the trend is that there will be more and more things like that. People will be exchanging knowledge, opinions, and will be developing a Russian database which can be further used by, say, everyone. Well, they once asked me, what would you highlight looking at the Russian examples? Well, what are the things the professional community is lacking? Well, every community is lacking something. Well, sometimes we don't know enough about a community. Sometimes we don't have any guidance in terms of communication with them. Sometimes we wanted to be more open. Sometimes we wanted to bring together more participants. And, well, if I had more resources and time, I would develop an open source project which would aggregate communities in the InfoSec field so that you can apply to it and share some information about yourself and join this platform to find something you would love to do. But, well, this is daydreaming. Okay, we have covered some international and Russian examples. Now we know the theory, and now let's talk about its practical implementation. In our experience, Rezbez, my experience and my team's experience. A little digression, if I may. A year ago, the first Positive Hack Days Cyber Festival presented the Rezbez platform. The meeting was whether the methodology of result-oriented cybersecurity can be developed by a community. So this was a meeting. We showed the platform. We showed 10 domains of result-oriented cybersecurity. And we had a question: are you guys going to end up and close down tomorrow? Well, within a year, we can see that we're still there. We're alive and kicking. And now we have more than 90 articles and methods in terms of result-oriented cybersecurity. We have 18 authors. We have more than 1,800 followers in our Telegram channels and a lot of visitors of the site a month. So these are good milestones, aren't they? Well, we are not stopping there. We'll proceed. There are other things to be done. Okay, what I would like to focus on. Rezbez today brings together three independent entities which are segregated for a reason, but they're all part and parcel of our community. We have a platform, Rezbez.ru. We also have social media. We split the content and target various audiences, and also the community we have based on the methodology of result-oriented security. Okay, in 2018, Positive Technologies ran a lot of pen tests to analyze the information to see that many customers have similar vulnerabilities and breaches in their security. So shall we develop a guidance? Yeah, that's what we decided to do, and we developed a methodology. We had enough information for this, you know, and we started using it. And the question is, if in our methodology, when we develop something useful, well, you know, things don't last. So if our methodology is used not only for one customer, but, you know, by the whole world to get better, okay, why not? And, okay, but if you do it properly, and this was the guidance for us. And as a result, Rezbez.ru was born. It became the core of our community, and we could use it for the methodology and for kind of finding out about our channel. And throughout the presentation, well, we had fewer parts to the platform, and this is kind of based on the development we had, and we dealt with the components for the community. Obviously, we didn't have everything ready at the beginning. For instance, the part we call concept. Based on the feedback we received, we understood that the target audience should be clearly shown and shared with the participants. So it should be clear whom we are talking to and what kind of content we should have. And we also added there some principles our methodology is based on in our community too. So we should be relevant, result-driven, open, and vendor-agnostic. We also have some values here, talking about the importance of this. So why we think that our community should be developing and alive. Okay, then we have the methodology tab. I think that it's the least changing part of our site, but if you have any ideas, we are ready to discuss them. And there we also share more information about methodology. We provide information which is interesting not only for us but also our staff. And we also give an interesting tool to use the methodology. We also have various reviews where we consider various pieces of legislation, regulations, for instance, the OWASP Smart Contract Top 10 or the calculator CVS 4.0. So this was for satisfying the interests of our community, because many Russian and international regulations have elements of result-driven methodology. So people shared it with us and we share it with them. Then we have on community tab. So just to answer the question who we are and who is part of the Rezbez team. And there we also talk about the mission and the policy of the community. So we're talking about the way we should communicate. So we set the rules, and we have only one rule: we should be effective in our community. And a few more words about who we are. Well, officially, Rezbez is a non-commercial, non-for-profit project, bringing together experts who would improve the level of result-driven security in Russia and globally. And a third party might think that we are like an editorial team and we have some article authors. And we don't have so many of them, by the way. And, you know, this third party observer is erroneous. Why so? Here is exactly the team of Rezbez. So we have positive technologies people, we have third-party participants who contribute to the development of our community. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for this, because we have marketeers, we have site developers, we have technical coders, we have product teams, we have security analysis team sharing their experience. Yeah, the team is really huge. Let's proceed. The next element I'd like to talk about is our social media, Telegram, YouTube, and Nelzagram. I hope you understand what it means. So we developed our Telegram channel because we understood that it will be the best tool to communicate through at the beginning of our community. And then we further developed our site. Well, we are not sure whether we should add communication channels there, but Telegram now has a life of its own, and it has its own rules and its own audience and content. Talking about the content, so we started experimenting with the format, the audience, and now we are developing our YouTube channel and our Nelzagram channel. Well, I can tell you that you should follow, please like us, and so on and so forth.
Теперь подведем краткие итоги нашей работы с компонентами. Цель сообщества, да, повышение уровня.
So by Nelzagram, we mean a version of Instagram. Okay, so what's our goal? To increase the level of InfoSec in our country and globally. How do we invite new participants? Word of mouth, advertising, events like this one, and partnerships.
Дальше.
Communication rules. So we have a policy which is quite concise. We use extra communication channels like Telegram, and this rules is a derivative of the platform rules, which is quite convenient.
Облегчает вам управление вашим сообществом.
And this is something simplifying your way to manage your community. We also have the platform for communication, Rezbez.ru, the content. We are based on the methodology for result-driven cybersecurity. So this is our very concrete foundation. How we motivate our staff. We have competitions, we have merch, we have events, and there are many things apart from that there. Please join us and find out things. The interests and needs of the participants, comments in social media, the Q&A sessions, and we also develop our site based on the requests we receive, and we also do governance and leadership. We have support here from Positive Technologies, and the community and our project itself is a non-commercial, non-for-profit project, and that's our guiding star. That's about it as far as our experience goes. Let me wind up. But before that, talking about the site, we have there the personal account, so please come and see. This is a convenient channel for getting in touch and for contributing to the community. We have also launched a contest. You can also have a look. And please subscribe to our channels, like us, share us, and so on and so forth. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that difficulties are there, and they are to be expected. If you have fears or concerns, you are not alone. We've gone this way, but when you have a team, you proceed, and if you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you will strive through this. But go little by little in a well-arranged way. This is the way you should approach any project in the InfoSec field. And you'll make it. And we are there to share our experience and to answer your questions. And please avoid
Может быть, вопросы самое время?
the unacceptable events. And now it's time for the questions.
Коллеги.
Colleagues?
А вот и в зале есть у человека вопрос. Ага. Так, а микрофон у нас... Ну, я понял, прошу прощения. Так, можете ли вы привести пример...
Can you share an example of a real community developed through the steps you shared in your presentation?
К сожалению или к счастью, вот я
Well, be it for good or for bad,
привел ряд примеров зарубежных.
I have shared some international examples,
Прошли
and they all went through this,
с учетом этих компонентов. Если все
through these
перечислять,
steps.
наверное, это долго, но у них есть сильная цель.
So they have a strong goal, everybody understands, it is time proven. They have methods for attracting their participants, conferences and programs.
Без, как сказать, бесплатно знакомиться с каким-то материалом, вносить
A chance to read materials for free, make your contribution, and also a centralized platform, communication rules, and they do have leadership. And this exactly is about the best practice in open source. What should you do when you swap communities? Should you update the old one or just build it from scratch? Well, there are two perspectives at this. Are you the founder or are you the participant? I think we should start with the reason why you want to change this. So maybe you think that you have made your contribution to this community as much as you could, and now you're opening some new frontiers. Or else you lack resources and you have to change the platform, your type of activity. The important thing is to understand why you are doing this. Yesterday, I think we discussed this at length. Why is it happening? So you need to answer this question. Why are you going to change the community? How do you generate and manage content? How do you invite and select the authors for your content? Depending on the governance model, if you say are alone, the only leader, then it's up to you. Is it convenient? Well, I wouldn't say so. The larger the team, the better it is to segregate responsibilities. And talking about Rezbez, why do we have three entities? The site, social media, and community. Because these are the three entities which are good for segregating responsibilities, and it makes your job more convenient. And different people can work and generate content in these three entities. And you can do a similar thing if you can. And if you can do it on your own, well, good luck, good job, but this is going to be tough. Please avoid burning out.
С какими проблемами вы столкнулись при построении такого большого сообщества, как Rezbez?
What were the issues when you were building the Rezbez?
Наверное, так же, как и все.
Well, just like anyone.
Помните риски, которые я
Well, I mean, the risks I described. Do you remember them? How to attract participants? Will our information cause any response? So how to engage with the community? These fears and risks, they were there at the very beginning, but we learned how to deal with them. We learned how to deal with those who disagree with our views. So why no? We support different opinions. But our goal and our vision gives us strength. We understand why we are doing this. And through this understanding, we can easier cope with day-to-day issues, coordinate and adopt various content and plan the development of our site. And the final one, what's the difference of Rezbez from Harbor or Hacker? in terms, well, this is for us to rush to join your community.
Да простят меня коллеги.
Well, I hope my colleagues will forgive me for saying this. All the examples you shared in your question are good in
Наш отличается тем, что мы
InfoSec
четко
communities.
видим наши результаты.
But our distinction is that we can see our results clearly. So every action the experts of the company take in InfoSec, they should lead to a tangible result. I would harp on about this for long. Like yesterday we had a session on this. And an action should be confirmed in a practical way. Like you run cyber tests and you see more and more companies joining. And the most important thing, we are goal-driven. That's where we start. This is our very concrete foundation. We know how to develop the core. We know how to enrich this. So we write articles which will be related to the methodology, being independent works, and we want, to be spread thin, because, well, Harbor is a versatile, multifaceted community. The articles there cover everything, from management all the way to the hardcore technical skills. We have a similar thing, but in one direction, in one dimension, which can be used practically. That's our key distinctive feature, the way I see it. Thank you very much for your question. Really interesting. Would you share some advice with those who decided to do this? Well, how to understand that you are going to burn out soon? Can you somehow protect yourself or resuscitate yourself? Well, thank you, Anton. This is a really good question. I like it.
Когда я думал над докладом, вот фраза «не сгореть».
How to avoid burnout? There are two ideas behind it, and we all have seen this. The first one, when you are fed up, nothing works, I'll just give up, and any difficult task can cause these ideas. And the second idea is that when people, shout, have an animated discussion, let some steam off, and they proceed. Okay, let's go on. And this is okay. So, to use the second path, you can use this basis I have talked about. So these steps, we go step by step. We are not trying to introduce 20 tools at the same time. Some agile practices say that you take bits and pieces from everywhere. Well, I understand this. Problems and tasks, they are falling on your head from anywhere. But what do? We split the big ones into the small ones, we set priorities, and through these priorities, we build the core first, and then we are dealing with the rest. And that's what you should start with. Don't be afraid. You are not alone. Well, things around us, they were built by someone. They came to someone's mind. For instance, a person who, as a hobby, was doing something, and now he has a huge community. Well, I don't know how he can manage it with this one person. I hope that he has a team supporting him, but he said that he was alone. Yeah, so good job. My hat goes off to him. Okay. Are you burning out or not? Well, I think you can have a look at other tasks as an analogy. Like any other job in infosecurity, you don't give up right in the middle of the road. You understand that for some reason a task cannot be solved at this time, and you have some backlog developing. Please keep an eye on this. I don't think there are any universal kind of metrics here, but, try to use your previous experience, how you solved other tasks. Please apply this experience to building your community. I hope I answered your question. One more question.
как вот лучше мотивировать команду и привлекать...
How do you motivate the team and how do you invite new organizers? Could you please speak up? How do you motivate the team and how do you invite new organizers to the team? You mean the community organizers? Yeah. And to motivate the community team or, yeah, the community team. So that they, don't leave you, but stay with you and further develop the community and projects.
Я понял, о чем вы. Я приводил пример,
Okay.
с которым вот в рамках опроса исследований со мной поделились. Когда
The
есть
survey shared some answers with me when you have one curator and several domains. The curator can perform different functions, like he or she can see to it that the community should stay alive and develop, so that every leader should perform their role, because at the same time the curator is not a leader. Okay, my advice would sound like that. Motivation can differ for the participants and for the leaders, for the organizers. And this can be, well, I mean, for them to continue to go on, you can give them some side tracks. So you can step aside and have a third-party look at your community, and you can see the development prospects for a community through a different lens. Let me share with you an example.
То есть на примере расскажу о работе СОКа.
Okay, your SOC, your community can be there to reveal processes, or you can tell the organizer, why don't you take some rest and share with the participants the information on cyber incidents. Or you can introduce a different format, like he used to write some articles, but he's fed up. Okay, why don't you record a video, play with your body language and facial expressions, why not? So this is a different perspective, the same thing you've been doing. But, well, this is difficult, but that's what we like, isn't it? Well, sometimes we look at things, but we cannot see them. Just like preparing for this speech. It looks quite obvious, but when I started dealing with this, I understood that there is some kind of foundation. You can start somewhere. Okay, colleagues, I think that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.